So you're moving house. It should be this super exciting time, right? New beginnings. But let's be honest, it can also be a massive headache. You're basically packing up your entire life into a bunch of cardboard boxes and trusting someone else to get it there in one piece. But what if there was a way to take some of that worry off your plate?
I mean, just imagine it. That gut-wrenching feeling when you're unpacking and you realize that heirloom vase from your grandmother is just gone. Or worse, the box with all your plates and glasses just vanished. And now you're facing weeks of takeout. It's a real nightmare scenario.
Well, the good news is you don't have to just cross your fingers and hope for the best. There's actually a financial safety net that was created specifically for the controlled chaos that is moving house.
So in this explainer, we're going to unpack all of it. We'll kick things off with the real risks of moving, then we'll get into what transit insurance actually is, what it does and doesn't cover, and finally, we'll give you a super simple roadmap to get yourself protected.
First things first, let's talk about the journey. You know, it doesn't matter if you're moving across town or clear across the country. The second your stuff leaves your old home, it is at its absolute most vulnerable. Every single pothole, every sharp turn, every time something is picked up or put down, that's a risk.
So, how do you guard against all that? Well, the answer is something called transit insurance. But what in the world is it, and how does it even work? Let's dive in. Okay, so here's the official definition. But think about it like this. Your regular home and contents insurance, that's for when your stuff is sitting pretty inside your house. The moment it's out the door and on that truck, you're in a total coverage gap. And that's exactly where transit insurance comes in to save the day.
It's literally a safety net for your stuff. Because look, no matter how amazing your movers are, and some are truly fantastic, accidents can and do happen. This insurance just makes sure that you can actually repair or replace what gets lost or broken without having to dip into your own savings.
All right, this is where we really need to get into the nitty-gritty, because not all policies are the same, and knowing what's covered, and just as important, what's not covered, is absolutely crucial.
A good policy will cover you for a whole range of potential disasters. We're talking about things like accidental drops while loading the truck, a whole box that just disappears into thin air, and even the big stuff like theft, a traffic accident, or damage from a fire or a flood.
But, and this is a big but, you have to be aware of the fine print. Things like pets and plants are pretty much never covered. Same goes for cash. And it makes sense, right? Movers aren't going to be responsible for hazardous materials or that carton of milk you forgot to throw out. That's why you have to read the policy's official document. It's usually called a product disclosure statement before you sign anything.
And listen up, because this one is huge. If you have expensive things, we're talking jewelry, original art, valuable antiques, do not just assume they're fully covered by a standard policy. You'll almost certainly need to declare them separately and probably buy extra coverage to protect what they're really worth.
So, you're convinced you need this coverage. Awesome. Now, what are the different ways you can actually go about getting it?
Before we jump into your options, let's just bust a massive myth right now. A lot of us think, hey, if the mover breaks my stuff, the moving company has to pay for it. Nope, that is rarely true. Their basic liability is often shockingly limited, sometimes as low as 60 cents per pound. So if they completely trash your 50-pound high-def TV, you might get a check for 30 bucks. Yeah, that's why you need real insurance.
You've really got two main paths here. First, you can get insurance straight from your moving company. It's super convenient for sure. Or you can go out and buy your own separate standalone policy from an insurance company. The mover's policy is easy, but going standalone often gives you way more control to customize your coverage.
And this chart really nails the key difference you have to remember. Your regular contents insurance is for when your stuff is at home. Transit insurance is for when it's between homes. They're built for two totally different jobs, and trying to use your home policy to cover a move is a really big and potentially very expensive gamble.
Okay, so you know the what and the why. Now let's build your action plan. Here's a simple, step-by-step guide to getting covered and making sure your move is as stress-free as possible.
It's pretty straightforward. First, just ask your moving company what kind of insurance they offer. Then, call up a separate insurer and get a quote from them for a standalone policy. Lay them out side by side, compare the costs and what's covered, and then, no matter which one you pick, read that product disclosure statement we talked about before you sign a single thing. All right, so let's boil it all down. If you remember nothing else from this, remember these key things. 1. Transit insurance is your financial safety net. 2. It's built specifically for the risks of being on the road. 3. You've got to check for those exclusions and declare your valuables. And 4.
don't ever assume your regular home insurance has your back on moving day, because it probably doesn't.
Look, at the end of the day, you've planned the truck, you've packed all the boxes, you've got the dates circled on the calendar. But have you planned for your own peace of mind? Because getting the right insurance isn't just about protecting your furniture, it's about protecting yourself from a whole lot of unnecessary stress.